The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship was just 3 weeks ago, but surprisingly, the formerly undefeated 38-1 Kentucky Wildcats was what most people were talking about. Let's go back for a second though. The Kentucky Wildcats were 38-0 when they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. This is ironic for more than one reason. First, the Final Four was held in Indianapolis. Second, the last team to win a national championship undefeated was the 1975-1976 Indiana Hoosiers. And finally, these two schools are actually rivals. This brought up the debate of whether Kentucky would be the next undefeated champion, if the 2014-2015 Kentucky team was better than the 1975-1976 Hoosiers team, and the fact that the Hoosiers only had 32 games compared to what would have been 40 for Kentucky. First, we can take a look at the Hoosiers' perfect season. The Hoosiers roster consisted of 13 players coached by Bobby Knight, 12 of which were from Indiana, Illinois, or Ohio, and 1 from New York. The Hoosiers averaged 82 points per game, giving up only an average of 65 points to their opponent, with only 2 games going into overtime. They faced 10 ranked teams throughout the season and shot 52% with their opponents only shooting 42. This was also before the three-point line was introduced into college basketball. Scott May was the leading scorer, averaging 23 points per game. Second on the team was Kent Benson with 17 points per game. Next, we have the 2014-2015 Wildcats. The roster consisted of 16 players from all around the U.S., coached by John Calipari. The Wildcats averaged 74 points per game and allowed only 54 to their opposition, also with 2 games going into overtime. They faced 11 ranked teams throughout the season and shot 47% with their opponent shooting 35. Aaron Harrison was the leading scorer, averaging 11 points per game. Second on the team was Karl Anthony Towns with 10 points per game. With this in mind, let's take a look at an interview with Bobby Knight explaining what he did to help his team accomplish this feat.
It has been 35 years since there was a perfect team and the NCAA won a national championship. Bob Knight coached that team as he joins us now. 35 years ago, Bob, what is it that separates that team from others who have attempted perfection?
Well, I think they were probably better than the others that attempted perfection because they reached it. And we had a team that I think probably had the best pair of defensive guards ever to play college basketball in Quinn Buckner and Bobby Wilkerson, and everybody else on that team filled vital roles, and whether they started or came in off the bench or whatever. That was just an exceptional group of kids.
How is it that you realized that at the time? You were still a very young coach, long career in front of you. Or what was it that told you that so quickly?
What I did with that team is probably the neatest thing in my mind that I've ever seen come to fruition. And that is on the day before practice in that 75-76 season, I had our team sit down and I told them this: all right, there's a team that can win the Big Ten. There's a team that'll win the NCAA. Neither one of those is our goal. Our goal this year is to play this season completely undefeated, from our opening game through the championship of the NCAA tournament. That's what this team is capable of doing, and I expect it to do just that. And we talked about that, or I talked about that, as I said, the day before practice opened, and those kids believed it and they did it.
Was there any particular game in that season in which you thought that your team might lose, during that particular game?
Well, there were a couple of games that we had to come through at the very end of the game. I felt that I had to coach as though we had a chance to lose every game, because if I let up a little bit in my approach, then these kids are going to let up a little bit in their approach. And one of the things that I thought really helped that team, Reese, was the fact that my approach to practice after Christmas break was that we never worked longer than an hour and 15 minutes. And I always felt that we were as rested and had as much energy as you could possibly have toward the end of a rigorous schedule.
It was certainly a remarkable run in 1976. Bob, we'll talk to you soon.
Now comes the debate of which team would win in a matchup. We turn to Doug Galati for more.
Billy Packer said on Tony Kornheiser's radio show that there's no way possible that this year's Kentucky team would beat Bobby Knight's 76 Hoosiers team. Who do you think would win in a hypothetical matchup between these two teams?
I was born in 1976. I'm led to believe, though, that this team would probably beat them. I just do. I think they're crazy athletic and very, very skilled. And I don't think they would beat some of the teams of the early to mid 90s, back when you had teams deep with future NBA stars that were 3- and 4-year players. But I think a 76 team, yeah, this team would beat them.
There will never be an answer to which team would win in a head-to-head match due to the large time gap in between seasons. But with a game that is constantly evolving with a brand new breed of athletes, new rules, and new styles of play, the comparison is nearly impossible to make. It all comes down to opinion.